Howdy, 2019 was definitely a sequel year for animated movies. I mean, there were a few originals, but a lot of the most powerful, emotional, and funny movies of 2019 were onto their second or third sequel. And of course, this meant a few lousy, highly substandard sequels as well, some of which were based on already lousy originals. In fact, some reviewers even describe one of these movies as highly unpleasant and deeply unsuitable for children. And that's probably not a term you want your multi-million-dollar kids movie to be labeled with.
Mr. President!
So let's jump into the top 6 best and worst 2019 animated movies. Also, thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this extra video, with whom I recently built my website through. If you like, feel free to use the link in the description to get 10% off your own website. Anyway, on to the countdown. For the third worst, Norm of the North 3, King-Sized Adventure. A third one. Just who keeps calling for more of this franchise? I mean, is it just getting all its revenue off the cartoon community's reviews of it? Once again, Norm's adventure is completely ridiculous. What a surprise! An evil archaeologist steals an ancient artifact, and it's up to Norm to retrieve it for the people of China. There's just something so vanilla to these Norm stories without a hint of chocolate in them.
Check it out. I downloaded some majorly awesome beats.
And even putting aside the cliche main story, the side story is just Norm's son Quinn acting as king and being horrible to everyone. Hooray? The plus is, it's probably the best of the 3 Norm movies, but that's really not saying much.
That's natural. Not that natural.
The animation is a little better too, even moving to a new setting, so at least it's not in the Arctic or the rehashed city anymore. But like the original 2, the plot still feels very linear and boring to me. It's the blank document in Microsoft Office or Google Docs. You normally start with Norm of the North and build from there. Except the producers just left the document blank and hoped that kids would just be pulled in by a big polar bear. Or this time, the Lemmings, who seem to be Lionsgate's own take on trying to make the Illumination minions. One set of minions is enough for a lifetime. It's enough for everyone's lifetime. Poop and fart jokes still seem to make it into even the 3rd movie, which should give you some idea of the writing quality.
Just a tip. If you get thirsty, don't eat the yellow snow.
And Rob Schneider's performance as Norm still seems to underwhelm me. But that's Norm in a nutshell, really. It's not abysmal, but it's passionless and void of any creativity. For the 3rd best, Toy Story 4. Oh, spoilers in this if you haven't seen it yet. Feel free to switch to this timestamp if you want to skip the spoilers. While the original Toy Story trilogy left on a perfectly comfortable spot, there was one plot thread that was left unresolved, and that was what happened to Bo Peep. I mean, there was a real mutual affection and care there, and, well, they made out at the end of the first movie. Toy Story 4 attempts to answer these questions and makes an interesting addition to the franchise. But in case you haven't checked it out yet, I'll try not to give too much of the plot away. So Bonnie's not playing with Woody anymore, and he's basically getting the attic treatment. Woody's once again having to face not being wanted anymore, and honestly, he's taking it all pretty well.
You all right, Woody? I'm sure she'll pick you next time. Oh, come on. I'm fine. No problem.
Hey, Woody, here.
Oh, thanks, Jesse. We're here for you, buddy.
Eventually, Bonnie creates Sporky, and he's more than a little unconventional. Soon, Woody and Sporky get lost, and it's here they meet not only the new villain, but an old friend as well. Bo Peep's gone through a lot of changes since we last saw her though, and is kind of like a freelance nomad toy rescuer now. It's certainly interesting. In the meantime, the other toys try to come to Woody's rescue. What stood out the most to me about Toy Story 4 was actually the visuals, particularly the villains. I mean, jeebus, look at this. That looks legitimately threatening. I've never seen visuals like this before in Toy Story in my life. A twisted doll with twisted mutant uncanny zombie toys trying to do surgery on Woody? It looks awesome. Never have I seen Toy Story look this threatening, uncanny, and disturbing. I love it. The story actually feels pretty similar to Woody's journey in Toy Story 2, with Woody more subtly trying to be convinced to leave his child behind in order to start a new life with someone close to him. This time, with a new and improved Bo Peep. My main complaint was, I simply didn't feel the romantic chemistry between Bo Peep and Woody. I get they're probably trying to do the awkward X angle here, with them trying to adjust to one another after so many years. But I just could have used a little bit more romantic chemistry, a few more signs that they really care about one another. It would have given a lot more build up to the ending. Maybe I didn't pick up on the body language because I'm Asperger's, I don't know. I'd be curious if you felt their chemistry more than I did. Feel free to let me know in the comments. And spoilers alert, my favorite part of the movie is the ending, the last 10 minutes. I felt Woody's decision was absolutely perfect to leave the franchise on, and frankly, I think it's what the old cowboy deserves. Freedom and a new life for the one that got away. This is probably some of the best animation we've seen in an animated movie ever. I mean, you can see each individual thread on Bo's cloak, and each frayed tiny fiber on Woody's jacket, and every individual tiny piece of glitter used for Sporky. This isn't millions of dollars of work, this is hundreds of millions of dollars of work. The ending is well deserved, and it's a nice final addition to the franchise. That's right, final. Maybe. Probably. Oh, who am I kidding? Get ready for Toy Story 5. And the second worst of 2019 was Ugly Dolls. Yeah, that title is ringing some alarm bells for me too. Don't worry, it's not related to the Garbage Pail Kids. It's not that bad. There have been many an animated movie with a message, be proud of who you are, and it's a fine message, and it's what I thought I'd get with Ugly Dolls. However, I was wrong. Get this story. The movie takes place in a world where ugly dolls are sent to Uglyville, instead of perfection where perfect toys go. Moxie is an ugly that believes that there is a toy for every child, even the ugly toys. And one day, Moxie ends up out of Uglyville and in perfection, where she and her friends strive to be perfect toys. The movie seems to borrow elements from a whole barrage of movies like Toy Story, The Lego Movie, and Trolls. Except it doesn't seem to understand what made these other movies so special. In fact, it doesn't even seem to fully understand what ugly is. For example, they have one character who hides the fact that she wears glasses because she'd be considered ugly, which seems to unintentionally send the message to kids that if you wear glasses, you're ugly, which simply isn't true. I mean, I do agree with the message that our flaws are what make us who we are and part of what make us beautiful. It's just presented here in such a muddled, cloying way. A lot of the movie is confusing and there are plot elements here that just don't make any sense. For example, the toys fear the washing machine. If they break the 3 laws of what a perfect toy is supposed to be, being free of smudges, stains, and smells, they get sent to the washing machine. I mean, the washing machine is treated like the incinerator in Toy Story 3. Oh no, they get tossed around for a bit, maybe cleaned? That might be slightly annoying? Are they trying to imply that getting clean is wrong now?
This, students, is what happens to dolls who get messy. They get put through the wash!
The plus is, the voice actors and voice directors do a perfectly fine job. But even with good voice actors, it's hard to get interested in cliché writing and so-so characters. Moxie, as well as having the coolest name in the world, I mean seriously, what an awesome name, is the kind and optimistic doll who strives for bigger and better things. However, compared to say Princess Poppy or Ralph, she just doesn't seem to have any defining character traits that make her interesting. Even the bad guy's plot feels pretty cliche and overdone. He wants to destroy all the ugly toys in the world. He's just your typical narcissistic character.
There's a whole town of uglies.
It's called Uglyville.
Ugly Dolls tries to give the message that it's okay to be yourself, but doesn't seem to understand what that actually means. And the second best is Lego Movie 2. I've been looking forward to this one. The original Lego Movie captured the imaginations of many when it first came out. Spectacular movie, great story, likable characters, and a message that resonated with many people. So with the announcement of a second movie, some people were very intrigued to see what would happen next. And frankly, I wasn't disappointed. I say some people because the tragedy of this movie is it barely made back its budget in box office sales. I originally saw this movie in the cinemas with 4 other people. 2 weeks after it originally came out. And it was freaking brilliant. We all clapped. All 5 of us. But since so few people parked their rears in the seats to see it, they'd never know. Anyway, 5 years have passed since the original movie, and the town of Bricksburg has fallen into disarray, now called Apocalypseburg. However, despite everything falling apart around him, Emmett continues to have hope that someday things will be better again.
Good morning, Apocalypseburg!
But a new intergalactic threat kidnaps his friends, and he has to go on a quest to save them. And frankly, I love this new threat. I also really like the connection between the hero and the antagonist, and just how much of this story is based on open communication and biases and fear. And it has a very resonating message, with me at least, that no matter how horrible things may become, no matter how dark the world may get, cynicism and hardships don't have to change your outlook or who you are. And you shouldn't sacrifice the things you love just so you can seem mature. Which, well, that's the entire basis of my job, really. Thank you. The animation is just as spectacular as before. In my opinion, even better. This time we get more space stuff and intergalactic stuff. I love the color scheme on these, and I think the writing is even better than last time, with witty jokes and a lot of stuff that leaves you reflecting, and that perfect balance of humor and emotion. The Lego Movie 2 is just as awesome as its predecessor. In fact, I thought it was even better. Unfortunately, not enough people saw it, and the movie struggled to make back its costs. So sadly, we might not see a Lego Movie 3 anytime soon. And frankly, I consider that society's loss. And before we get to the number ones, let's go through some quick honorable mentions. Frozen 2. As of me producing this video, Frozen 2 isn't quite out yet, though chances are it would have made one of my best lists. Overplayed or not, I love Frozen. And the story, from what I've seen of the trailers, involves a hidden kingdom. It looks like Within the Unknown will be the new Let It Go, and once again it really demonstrates Indina Menzel's vocal range. And for some reason, Anna taking out the cameraman. I'm sure whatever Disney's got in store, it's going to be just as captivating as the original one. Hopefully though, maybe a little less resung for the next 6 years? Maybe? As long as the kids are having fun. How to Train Your Dragon 3. Just as captivating as ever. It's great to see Hiccup taking his rightful place as Chief of Berk. Though admittedly, for me, this one dragged a bit more than 1 or 2 did. Mainly scenes like the romance between Toothless and his mate. Anyway, once again, the visuals and colors are stunning. Particularly in the Dragon World, that place is just beautiful. I think DreamWorks tried and succeeded at giving probably their classiest franchise the send-off it deserved. Invader Zim, Into the Florpus. I know this one isn't really cinematic, but I figured I might as well give my thoughts on it. Invader Zim was a cartoon that was unique. Even more unique when it originally came out in the 90s. It was darker and grittier than probably anything Nickelodeon's done apart from Legend of Korra. But not dark in that sort of smug, self-congratulatory kind of way either. But it wasn't a serialized story like Avatar either. It was like Simpsons, where it had a status quo that it went back to. It was cancelled before its time. However, many years later, Netflix has aired the special Into the Florpus, and it feels more like a extra long episode than a movie. But it was a really nice peek into the lives of the characters I've missed seeing, and that's probably the best way to summarize it. The style has changed considerably in the many years the show's been off the air. It actually follows the style of the comics though pretty well. The jokes still feel true to the characters, and there's still that dark element. And even if it feels a little bit safer than the original show, the wit is still there and the writing's still good. And if you enjoyed the original, I think you'll still enjoy this movie.
Dookie Dim, watch helplessly as I begin.
Phase 2!
Abominable. Abominable is a DreamWorks film in a similar vein to How to Train Your Dragon, with a teenager befriending a strange creature. However, Abominable does stand on its own as a unique movie full of relatable characters, a lovely soundtrack, and gorgeous animation. The story's kept very simple this time. A teen named Yi is trying to help a Yeti return to his home, and what follows is a DreamWorks-esque, exhilarating, but gentle adventure. This is much more what I would have wanted from Home than what we actually got. Despite the premise, it doesn't have that sickly sweetness that Home did. It's a good movie, and just what I'd expect from modern DreamWorks. Steven Universe, the movie. I think many would agree, there's a lot of amazing talent behind Steven Universe, and good people. It's a show that's touched many people in terms of its representation, themes, and characters we care about. So what's the half-man, half-gem, now 16-year-old hero is up to? Well, some spoilers ahead because the movie takes place post-series. The issues of the past have been settled annoyingly well, and peace has been established across the universe. However, a gem named Spinel, who has a very justifiable grudge on Steven's mom, comes to Earth, and she quickly resets Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl back to their default settings, so to speak, and injects Earth with a device that could blow it up. Unless Steven, and perhaps Spinel, jump into action. The villain's sympathetic, and I understood her motivations well enough. The animation's even crisper than usual, and you can really tell that the animators had a lot of fun with Spinel's design, as well as her powers. I do like some of the messages Steven learns, like there is no perfect happy ending. And it's just my opinion, but I'd argue that's become a cliche in much of Western culture. I like the message that there will always be conflict, but how you choose to deal with that conflict is what matters. In case you're wondering, the opening song is my favorite. Other Friends I didn't find quite as amazing as some other people, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, on to the number ones. And 2019's number one worst animated movie is The Queens Corgi. And here we find it, labeled deeply unpleasant and not suitable for children. I'm gonna say that's among the worst thing your animated kids movie could be called. So let's dive in, because it's another dog adventure movie. On the outside, the film seems like it'll be something akin to Secret Life of Pets, probably being about pets and what they'll be doing when we're not at home. Except what's in the film is completely different. Interestingly, it uses real political figures. You can probably guess which one. And that bothered me because I use animated movies to escape this scumbag being on my every social media. And while I've obviously no guff for the Queen, it's very off-putting to see these real people in this very off-putting Lionsgate CG. It took Pixar like 20 years to perfect humans. I mean, look at Toy Story 1. The story's about Rex, who is the Queen's favorite corgi. But he ends up booted out of the palace and alone in London. So Rex has to survive on the streets while finding his way back home. The old dog adventure in the big city is about as cliche as you can get, and I feel like early Disney did this movie like 50 times at this point. I mean, it's fine to reimagine a good idea, but I just don't feel like Corgi brings anything new to the table. There's a few scenes in particular that tend to make everything uncomfortable. But frankly, I can't even watch the trailer without feeling uncomfortable. Particularly the Fight Club scenes, which feel so out of place it's not even funny.
In the blue corner, my dinner.
I'm too fluffy to die.
I personally just didn't like Rex. I don't know if it's just that I'm burnt out from the old British snooty stereotype, or all the cliche dog in the city adventures in general. But this snooty mutt just bothers me every time I see him or hear him talk.
Sorry, Nelson. I must show Her Majesty something important.
I don't even like the animation of these dogs. They just look weird to me. The voice actors once again do a fine job in their performance, but voices out of any of these mutts seems to annoy me.
With Tyson out, this place is going to be cool.
It's very cold outside.
Maybe the over-entitled monarchy or canine in general just aren't particularly good topics for me. Some of the other uncomfortable scenes include various nods to Trump's long history of alleged sexual assaults, and dogs attacking Trump's groin area. And the dogs themselves are ruthlessly fighting for the role as top dog in the Queen's court. Charlie, Rex's rival, even attempts to murder him to get that role.
You had your chance, now it's my turn.
Queens Corgi was thoroughly unpleasant to see, and I can comfortably say, in my opinion, it's the worst animated movie of 2019. And I think 2019's best animated movie is Into the SpiderVerse. Into the SpiderVerse confused me because I later realized in America it was released in December 2018, but it was being released internationally well into March 2019. So pardon me if you did see this movie in an earlier screening in 2018. For some of the world it was 2018, for some of the world it was 2019. Either way, it was a fantastic movie. In case somehow you hadn't noticed, superhero movies are quite popular nowadays. From the MCU to the DCU, and all other movies and shows in between, Spider-Man has passed through a lot of hands over the years, some better than others, and I personally think Into the Spider-Verse is a great place for him to land. Characters cross through each other's universes so seamlessly here, and it's a great concept.
Okay, let's do this one last time, yeah?
The film follows Miles Morales, who becomes the new Spider-Man, as you could probably guess, after being bitten by a radioactive spider. But then he accidentally kills the Peter Parker from his own universe. Oh dear. And then we get a ton of other Spider-Man counterparts such as Spider-Gwen, Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker, and her robot S-Peter. And, well, another Peter Parker from another timeline. But I won't give too much of the plot away, since I definitely recommend checking it out. The animation is done in a way where it really looks like a comic book come to life. Each version of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is animated in a distinctly different style, which really demonstrates they're not from this universe, yet they fit together seamlessly. The characters are all likable, and Miles, who makes his first on-screen appearance, is a great lead, who's struggling to live up to the reputation of someone who's just beloved by everyone, while also trying to be a hero of his own merits. And all the other Spider heroes are really interesting as well. Penny is adorable, while also being a quick thinker, and Gwen is sarcastic, but she means well. And as always, it's nice to see some female representation on the team. Spider-Noir and Spider-Ham, whilst comic relief characters, are more than that as they really prove themselves to be quite capable. Spider-Ham in particular really allows the animators to go further with their animation. Peter B. Parker himself really intrigued me. You see, he's more cynical than the Peter from Miles' universe. He's been Spider-Man for so long that it's started to take a toll on him and his relationships. And that's a take on Spider-Man I've always wanted to see. We've seen it with Batman, why not with Spider-Man? How does he handle the job of Spider-Man over years, maybe even decades?
Because you know what? No matter how many times I get hit, I always get back up.
He originally doesn't want to be dragged into the adventure, but he does eventually come round. Overall, Into the Spider-Verse is an exhilarating movie, visually and in story and in concept. And I like the overall message of the movie, that anyone can be Spider-Man. Anyone can choose to be a hero.
We all have powers of one kind or another, but in our own way, we are all Spider-Man.
But anyway, thanks for checking out some of 2019's best and worst with me. And as I mentioned earlier, my website's all done, and I'm very pleased with what Squarespace's tools let me create very easily and quickly. They've got some beautiful designer templates to start with. The tools can also build some very classy online stores if you're looking to sell things. Squarespace likes to say, build it, make it, show it, sell it. Like this handsome fella. Not that I'm specifically endorsing Apple computers, I'm a Windows boy. You can check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when your site's ready to launch, you can use squarespace.com/PhantomStrider to save 10% on your first purchase on a website or domain. As 2019 nears its end, I honestly didn't have any grandiose message on animated movies. But I do think, sequels or not, these movies are still connecting with people. So even if we're seeing Toy Story 9 in a couple of decades, if people are still walking out of the cinema emotionally touched and content, who am I to complain? And if you think I missed a best or worst choice for 2019, feel free to leave your own thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.